would like to have done better for Muhyiddin, since, well, you probably know Muhyiddin Hajar as a young scholar. He just defended his PhD dissertation last year, and he was awarded the best grade for a PhD dissertation in French law about the investment funds in both Lebanese and French law. In fact, he studied in Lebanon, he studied the Islamic law, he studied linguistics, and he came to France to study comparative law. And hence, the work he has done today is the result of a very deep and long research about comparing the way to provide insurance under the French and the Islamic legal system. I must say that this is a deep inquiry, because he did not rely on second-hand legal literature, but he has gone into the detail thoroughly in order to understand exactly what can be done with the French system in order to fulfill the expectations of pious Muslims. So I think this research deserves to be known. Many thanks for welcoming him to this seminar. And I think, Muhyiddin, you have 40 minutes.
Okay, yeah. Yes,
okay. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for assisting to this presentation. So I will try to resume this humble work on the Islamic insurance in French law. The work is, in fact, very, very deep and very precise. As you know, after the prohibition of the conventional insurance by Ibn Abdin, a very long debate took place about the Sharia compliance of insurance, with many collective decisions that treated the conventional insurance. I mentioned some of them, the most important. So the Sharia scholars mark the distinction between three types of insurance: commercial insurance, cooperative insurance, and social insurance. The first type, the commercial insurance, was considered that is prohibited in Islamic law. The second type of cooperative insurance was considered as can be used as a basis of Islamic insurance, and the social insurance was also authorized. We are talking in the 50s, 60s of the late century. In this moment, we haven't any Islamic insurance yet. So the Sharia scholars in this period tried to create Islamic insurance by the idea, or by using the idea of cooperative insurance. But the problem is that the Arab legislations, or the Arab and Muslim countries' legislations, don't admit the cooperative insurance form that is known in Europe. So the Sharia scholars have managed the joint stock company to receive the Islamic insurance operation. So we have the many forms to manage the Islamic insurance. Ayufi present to us in the second article of the Standard of Islamic Insurance Norm two forms to manage the Islamic insurance. The first form is the auto management. In this form, we have the insured themselves, through a committee representing them, manage the insurance operation. And the second form, an independent company manage an insurance operation. And this is the second point, or the second form, is the form used by the takaful industry, actually. in the most cases. This difficulty in Arab and Muslim countries due to absence of cooperative insurance in the positive laws mark the importance of the study of the French law, who already knows some forms of mutual insurance. A few months ago, we have a guest who presented a very eminent work on cooperative in France and in Europe in general, Monsieur Liré. And there was a very important question that was posed from the Saudi partners. They asked, when we talk about cooperative in Arab world, we understand insurance or Islamic insurance. In fact, cooperative is very known in Europe, but they're in the most cases limited to civil operations. And the insurance parts that have the same principle are named, in fact, mutual insurance. That's the case in France, that's the case in Germany, that's the case in Canada, and this is in general. We have, for example, the International Cooperation and Mutual Insurance Federation, the ISMIF, that assembled the mutual insurance and the cooperative insurance in the industry, and it's very important organization that present to us that in reality we don't have a fundamental differences between cooperative and mutual insurances. In reality, there are a difference of names used by each country and each specifications. That's why we will enter in the French legal framework, where we have many forms of insurance entities. I can't say companies because we have some entities that are not considered as companies. The first form is insurance companies. In this form, we are talking in reality about the joint stock company that is considered the basic form for the conventional insurance. The second form, the mutual insurance company. This company is very particular, and we will talk about it. It's also submitted to the insurance code. The both companies are mentioned in the insurance code, and they are considered both as insurance companies. The third type is the mutuals, and it's submitted to the what's named the mutuality code. And the fourth type is the provident institutions, and this is the social security code who manage these entities. In fact, in the insurance code, we have some other forms of insurance. They are considered by the law and by the practice also as marginal. They are so small, and I think with the time they will be abandoned. So the reputation of these legal types, according to the ACPR, Authority of Control of the Insurance Industry, we have 749 insurance entity of French law. Also, we have some entities, foreign entities. They are not considered in this presentation. We have 281 insurance company, insurance and reinsurance company. This number contains the mutual insurance companies and the joint stock companies. The mutuals of Book 2 of the Mutuality Code, they are 431, about 57% approximately. And the provident institutions who manage the social security is very little number, 37 provident institutions. So the mutuals of Book 2, they are taking a very big place in the insurance industry in France. Of course, on the number, and I will talk briefly on this point later. So, before entering in this presentation, or before entering in the analysis, we must retain some criteria. So the analysis must be very precise. The illegal management behaviors from the perspective of Islamic law must be excluded from the analysis. I can say that the joint stock company is authorized or prohibited if I say the cause is the use of interest by the management or by the manager of the company, because this behavior, when it will be Islamic behavior, it will correct or rectify the management. In fact, some of the authors must try to say that some entities of French law are not Sharia compliant because the managers are using interest, and this is not precise. Also, we must exclude some occasional criteria for the contractual relationship of the operation. For example, the extent of the insurance does not affect its legality in Islamic law. It may well be an Islamic insurance limited to a particular area or activity, or an Islamic insurance who covers all the areas and all the activities. Also, we must exclude the comparison between French legal forms and the current form of takaful, because we are not comparing between the company of takaful as practiced in Arab countries and the French entities. In fact, we are comparing between the principles of Islamic insurance and the French entities. And finally, I tried to avoid the use of the notion of cooperative Islamic insurance to avoid the mixture between cooperative insurance and Islamic insurance and mutual insurance. So when I will mention the Islamic insurance, I limited that to Islamic insurance only. So the first form is the joint stock company. I will talk briefly about the joint stock takaful companies as practiced in Arab world. The use of joint stock companies for takaful operations is based on several modifications of the classical joint stock company. This gives the rights of 3 separate funds, as is mentioned in the IOFI standard on Islamic insurance. The assets of the takaful operation, which contain the takaful insurance fund and the fund dedicated to the investment of a part of the assets of Islamic insurance. This form, if we try to apply it in France or in the French legal framework on the joint stock companies, we will face some difficulties. Major 2 difficulties. We will face 2 legal difficulties. The first, can the joint stock company manage various segregated funds? We have in the takaful joint stock company, 3 independent funds. And the second point, is the joint stock company responsible for the indemnification of the insured clients in case of insufficient takaful funds? Because in the takaful case, the company is not responsible for the indemnification. It can give qard hasan for the takaful fund, but in principle, it's not responsible. So those 2 points can put some obstacles to the admission of the takaful in the joint stock law company in France. For the first question, we can prove a solution we can find a solution in the French law. The response is yes, we can, or the joint stock company can manage various segregated funds. The Article 310 of the French Insurance Code mentioned that. In fact, they give the insurance company the quality of fiduciaire or fiduciary that give them the ability to manage multiple independent funds. The second point is very difficult to admit it in French law because in principle the joint stock company is responsible of the indemnifications. If we search in the status of the joint stock companies in the French law, we can find a solution. The solution is to admit the fund as a segregated patrimony inside the joint stock company. This means that the patrimony now is legally independent. Of course, in all cases, it will be financially independent. But I'm talking about the legal point. If the client go to the judge and reclaims an indemnification, the company is forced to give the indemnification, even the takaful fund is not sufficient, except the exception is this case. It must be mentioned in the status, it must be mentioned in the policies, it must be mentioned in all the declarative informations from given by the insurance company. Donc, in principle, we can admit that the careful operation in the French legal framework by using the joint stock companies. We must be very precise in this work to constitute a similar entities to those functioning in our board on takaful companies, joint stock companies. The second type of companies. Yes.
What is segregated patrimony?
Segregated patrimony, that's what's called in French patrimoine affecté. It's a patrimony that have an independent legally from the entity. It's a patrimony.
Means assets. Basically, there are assets which are autonomous. Maybe.
Non, c'est pas asset. Actif et passif ensemble.
Okay, but it's closer to asset. Patrimony has no meaning in English.
Here, can it be the fully owned subsidiary? Fully owned subsidiary.
No. It's not a subsidiary. The idea is someone can have can pack some part of his wealth into what we call a patrimoine affecté. It is to say that it's a vehicle. It's a vehicle where you can put a part of your wealth, assets, and even liabilities.
And debts, yeah. Assets and debts.
And so it's a vehicle, basically.
C'est quoi le passif?
Liability.
Or debts.
In fact, the assets and the liabilities are restricted in a relation between them. The debts in this case are limited to the assets. And this is a legal form to limit the responsibility on the debts on the for the clients.
In terms of guarantee.
Limited liability company.
No, it's not a company. It's an we will translate it in Arabic as dhimma. It's dhimma in Arabic. It's an independent dhimma inside the manager or inside the joint stock company. This is the only case that can accept the takaful operation in the French law. The second type of companies is the mutual insurance company that are mentioned in the code, in the insurance code. This company is very particular because it collects the particular or the characteristics of joint stock companies and the characteristics of the associations. In fact, the Article 322 mentions the definition of these companies. Mutual insurance companies have a non-commercial purpose. They are formed to ensure the risks brought to their members. By paying a fixed or variable contribution, they guarantee the latter the full settlement of the commitment they undertake. In fact, the characteristic of this entity is a company of a civil nature. It have a non-profit purpose. The object is civil. It does not have a social capital. It does not have. It has her own funds. It's not registered in the register of commerce and companies, and it have a particular nature in terms of constitution, of management, and of disclosure. We will try to mention that some particulars of mutual insurance companies, or the insured persons become members in the company. They all manage the company via the management bodies. It's not. It's like the shareholders meeting. It's a members meeting, board of directors. Each of the clients will be insurer and insured. It has both qualities. The goal of the company is practically to reduce insurance costs for members. Because in this case, there is no action, no shareholders to take a profit. The members are the same, the insurer and the insured in the whole. Some particular points that facilitate the use of mutual insurance company as a vehicle of Islamic insurance. We can mention the most important points. We have the same purpose, mutual aid and cooperation between members. We have the same duality of quality partner insured between the clients. We will have the same in Islamic insurance and in mutual insurance company. Mutual insurance company may be at valuable contribution. In this case, we will respond to all the indemnifications demands, even in case of insufficient contributions. This is here we can face some legal difficulty in the French legal framework. Because we have some restriction on the recall of the partners or of the members to pay or to feed the fund or to feed the company. It's limited to a certain percentage of the initial contribution. In case of profits, that also called in this type of companies, it's called surpluses, and it's the same use of the notion of fa'id in Arabic. It's the same term. it cannot be disputed to the members. There is no mutual insurance entity in which we distribute the surpluses to the members. It's when we distribute surpluses to the members, we will get out of the mutual insurance. So this surplus must be put in a reserve account and must be used to lower the contributions. In case of dissolution of the mutual insurance company, this surplus must be given to another mutual insurance company or for a public utility association. So if we want to use the mutual insurance company to establish an Islamic insurance, we must mention in the status at the moment of the foundation of this company that the surpluses in this case, in the case of the dissolution of the company, must be given to a association that have a public utility as charity, okay, to avoid other types of giving the surpluses that can be out of the Islamic legal authorization. The mutual insurance companies, such as Islamic insurance, aim both to provide mutual assistance between the insured members for their well-being. Mutual insurance company ensures the independence of the insurance operation and the exclusive access to the insurance premium to the insured clients and members. It's possible to qualify the legal relationship between all the insured persons as a donation of each member to all the members for mutual assistance, and the status and the idea behind the mutual insurance can admit the idea of the donation, the tabarwa, that is used in Islamic insurance, and this can be used for this point. It can be used as a basis for Islamic insurance. Of course, I'm talking point by point. We have here some difficulties in the use of mutual insurance company as vehicle of Islamic insurance. The nature of contribution reminded with the deficit is limited to a proportion. Here we can have a problem in the Islamic law because the members are called to refund the fund, even if it's elevated indemnification. In fact, here I think that the critics was not very
Profound.
Very deep, because in the practical life of mutual insurance, we have bodies that are specialized in the study of the risks, and they will not have a very large scale of error, and they can use also the reserves accounts. And if we study the reports of the ISMIF, the International Cooperative and Mutual Insurance Federation, we can find in the reports that the activity of the mutual insurance companies in general is very precise, and they are, especially after the crisis, they were more better than the commercial insurance. The constitution of the mutual insurance company requires the grouping of at least 500 members believing in the project. In fact, the mutual insurance, when we say mutual, this means a group of persons who are grouped together to found this project. So, to create the mutual insurance company, we must have 500 persons. Between them, the first relation will be created. The philosophy of the mutual insurance is to establish solidarity among the members in order to seek the welfare and the prosperity of the members. In fact, this is a critics or a difficulty to use the mutual insurance company as Islamic insurance for some specialists in Islamic insurance, because they say that Islamic insurance aims to ensure the prosperity of all the society and not only the members. In fact, the limit of the effect of the Islamic insurance is to the members. And the only case when the Islamic insurance affects directly the society is when the Islamic insurance gives some surpluses to the charities. And this is also the case of mutual insurance company. And the secondary effect of the mutual insurance company on the society is the well-being of the society, welfare and prosperity of the society by the welfare and the prosperity of the members. It's the same secondary effect on the society as idea. That's for the Islamic, the mutual insurance company. Now I will pass with you to the third type of legal form in France that are named the mutuals. Mutuals are different from mutual insurance company. In fact, first of all, mutuals are very used in France. We have 431 mutual, more than 57%. They are submitted to the code of the mutuality. This very high number is due to the nature of the mutual. In the most cases, we have mutuals in each city or each region and each part of the country, and we have mutuals for some sectors, and we have mutuals for specific members or specific quality of persons. You see, so this gives a very big number and very big use of mutuals, and we find the definition of these mutuals in the code of the mutuality. Mutuals are private legal entities with no-profit purpose, as the same as mutual insurance companies. They carry out in particular by means of contribution paid by the members and in the interest of the latter and for their rightful claimants, an action of providence, solidarity, and mutual assistance under the conditions envisaged by their status in order to contribute to the cultural, moral, intellectual, and physical development of their members and the improvement of their living conditions. This definition gives us the same elements of the mutual insurance company. The difference between the both entities is the management of the entity. In mutual insurance companies, we have the same entities known in the joint stock company. But in mutuals, we don't have auditors, we don't have a complicated governance entities. It's very simplified. That's why we will see that the activity of mutuals is very restricted. And the volume, of course, and the volume of the mutual is very limited if we compare it to the mutual insurance company. Here I try to present some differences. So the principal activity of mutuals is the health benefits and pensions plans. And in fact, its activity is the risks related to person. Okay, we can't give an insurance for the house or for the car or for the you see, or for the, for example, for the accidents always it's insurance for persons. Okay, so their activity is very small, very limited. If we compare it to the insurance companies and the mutual insurance companies. If we will try to compare between mutuals and Islamic insurance, we have some convergence and divergence. In fact, the same points that were mentioned for mutual insurance companies are the same here. The principal critic and debate can be about the object of the company or of the activity. The mutuals are prohibited of giving insurance transaction other than those determined by the laws in force. An Islamic insurance operation wishing to cover all risks cannot have a legal form of mutual. However, mutuals can serve as legal support or legal form for Islamic insurance wishing to be limited to the insurance of risks related to persons. So this critic is not very deep. In fact, if we want to limit the activity, we can accept an activity of Islamic insurance that is limited to some activity. I've mentioned briefly that we have some other form of insurance in French law. In fact, the insurance code mentions these legal forms. We have mutual insurance company that we have presented. We have the tontine form companies. Those are a groupment of persons that can have the form of company. And we have agriculture, mutual insurance and reinsurance companies or funds. This type of entities is very limited, very restricted, and very secondary. All these derived forms of insurance are based on the idea of the mutuality, where the member is also the client or the beneficiary of the insurance. Okay. The fourth form of insurance entity is the provident institutions. Provident institutions are private law partnerships and are governed by the Social Security Code. They are founded by agreement between social partners and professional branch and the state. They are managed by the employers, by the labor unions, and by the state. Like mutuals, provident institutions are non-profit structures. We know it in the Arab countries as تأمين اجتماعي. It's the same idea. The only difference here is that the labor unions are present in the management of these institutions, which give them more efficiency to protect the workers and the clients. We have mentioned the number is very limited. We have only 37. Provident institutions are the تأمين اجتماعي. It was authorized by Sharia scholars because we don't have any غرض in the relationship between the insured and the provident fund or those who give the money. This is briefly. So if we want to compare between the entities of Islamic of legal framework in France and the Islamic description or evaluation of the entities of insurance in the 60s and the 70s, we found that we have first the commercial insurance. This category includes the joint stock companies known in France. The cooperative insurance mentioned by the authors in the 60s and the 70s, and mentioned by the scholars and by the academies of Islamic law. This category is assimilated to all forms of mutual insurance in France, with all different forms. And the third category is that include the provident institutions. Of course, if you want to found an Islamic insurance in France, we must be very precise in the definition and the restriction of the indemnification limits. Because in France, we cannot say in the prospectus and in the policies that Islamic law prohibited, for example, the changing or the operation of changing the sex, a male or a male who want to change his sex to be a female or inverse. We cannot say Islamic law prohibited that. So we must be very, very attentive to this point. We also, for example, for the plastic surgery operations who are not considered as medically, or we can, if we want to
Exclude them.
if we want to exclude them from the indemnification limits, we must be very very careful, because at any moment a policyholder can go to the judge and say there is a distinction based on the religion, and this point is not constitutional, and it will be announced as illegal, and the
Discrimination. Discrimination.
and the judge, if we are not precise in this part, the judge can force the Islamic insurance to give the money for a person who want to change his sex, or for a person who want to do some operations that are considered as prohibited or illegal from Islamic perspective. This is very sensitive in this sector. Here I'm presenting a proposal, in fact, to found an Islamic insurance in French law. In fact, we have mentioned it's possible to manage the mutual form to have an Islamic insurance. It's possible to manage the mutual insurance companies to manage the Islamic insurance. It's possible also to manage the joint stock company to found an Islamic insurance. But we have a very big problem in France. In fact, we need the money, we need the persons who can do this work, and we need the clients who are interested in this type of policies. So we cannot, in practice, we cannot found an independent mutual insurance company for the Islamic insurance, or a small mutual for Islamic insurance for the healthcare. So we find some tries, some projects. Actually, we have four types of Islamic insurance that we are founded in France. But here I'm presenting a proposal that was created and invented by CIFI, a Comité indépendant de la finance islamique en Europe, and the independent committee of Islamic finance in Europe. It's a committee Sharia board that gives authentication for the Islamic insurance, for the Islamic finance operations. In fact, what's the particular in this operation? They created an association. The association regroup all the members, all the policy holders. In fact, when the person subscribe for the mutual for the insurance, in fact, it will be automatically member in the association. The association is managed by the conventional mutual for a fee, of course, as with a contract, wakala contract. And a part of the actives of the assets of the association are invested in an Islamic fund. And in this way, there is no fees gives here for the manager. They are directly investing in the Islamic fund. In fact, the particularity here is the association have already her independent personality known in the admitted in the law. And this is very important. It's very different from the form of Islamic insurance in joint stock companies in our world, and it's very innovative. We have 4 entities of Islamic insurance. The most important is the first insurance in Islamic law that was created by Swiss Life in 2012. If we see the characteristic of this insurance, we have, for example, 75 euro to enter to the insurance. It's very logic. It concerns all the people. It must be theoretically. It must be realistic. But the problem after 5 years of work, they have only 700 subscriptions. In fact, they have a very big problem in terms of communication and commercialization of this product. In fact, some of these subscriptions were football players who bought 1 million, 1.5 million, and they founded the entity in this form. That's why they are not interested of the very big number of subscriptions. The other forms, for example, we have also Aman Exclusive Life of British Life. This was insurance policy of British Life. It was founded in 2013. We don't have some statistic on this operation. It's basic contracts, wakala, wakil is very known. The problem here that this product is limited to the rich people. If we have a person who wants to subscribe, he pay 215,000 euro. $1,000, excuse me, it's not in euro, it's only in dollars. The characteristic of this insurance, it's Sharia compliant. We don't have any particularly problematics. The difficulty is the restriction of the clients. We have Itra Takaful family, founded in 2014, but this Takaful product is very abundant. Nobody wants to subscribe in it because it's in reality a mixed contract. It covers 2 types of risks. A part is built of a part of the money is used to build a capital. The other part is used to finance the death insurance. In fact, we have a very big problem in France in the 2000 approximately. There was a very big entity of French insurance named the Affair, and they use this type of contracts to dissimulate and to use and to take a very big commissions on the insurance operation, and that's why when we say mixed contracts, nobody will subscribe in it. The latest Takaful product was Nur Asur Takaful Individual Health. It was validated by a committee. We have always. In fact, this product is based on the idea of association and on this organization that was originally created by the CFI. So it was used later by Noor Assure for their products. Is the same basis. It was certified by the CCC. Here I must mention that Standard Bank CCAR is a very big, very important actor in the Islamic finance in Europe, in France, in Luxembourg, in Belgium, because it's a CCAR of Islamic CCAR, fund of funds. It has a very diversified portfolio, and all the Islamic insurance products invest their money in this CCAR, and that gives this CCAR a very important place in the Islamic finance in Europe. And the manager is a French company. Actually, I think their actives are about 30 million. So the mutuality represents a general sense of mutual aid in the society. French law knows a variety of legal forms of mutual insurance, and these forms constitute an adequate legal model to accommodate Islamic insurance. The French market for Islamic insurance, and more generally Islamic finance, remains until today a mine to exploit. And thank you for your presence.
Thank you, Mahdi.
Moi, je prévois une.
I guess you might have some questions. I know these are quite difficult matters because Mohyeddin is trying to make clear some French legal categories which do not exist in common law. Hence, it is difficult to translate them, not just into another legal system, but also into another language, simply because you've seen we have had some difficulties to translate the so-called patrimoine d'affectation, which is basically a vehicle for wealth, for personal wealth. So maybe you have questions about the legal forms. Maybe you have questions about the insurance itself. No, it's up to you.
Okay. Should we start from here to here? Dr. Pierre, can you start from Jeddah, please?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, I want to ask about this one. Dr. Ibrahim Khoja in economics. I would like to ask about the taxes. They will pay taxes in France for the mutual insurance and for the social insurance. They pay tax. This is my question. And the other, I would like to say that here in Islamic, there is the zakat. The zakat also, they contribute with the insurance and with for the poor people, for us like the kafir, the social. And this is my question also, how much money for the insurance for the by milliard for the mutual insurance. Thank you.
I'm sorry, in fact, the sound was a bit low. Could you please repeat? Because we don't entirely get you.
I would like to ask about for the mutual insurance companies. They pay taxes
Yes.
for the government. This is my first question.
Yes.
And how much the mutual insurance in France in millions. Thank you.
Les actifs. Alors, est-ce que les mutuelles payent des taxes, des impôts? Oui. Ça, on va y répondre, c'est la même chose que les autres. Et combien ça représente? Alors, je peux vous trouver les statistiques en termes de primes, etc.
Non, le résultat total, je pense que pas.
Maybe we can take all the questions together and then answer in the end.
Just my question is about the social. My question is about the social responsibility with regard to this mutual insurance.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Dr. Hajar, first of all, my name is Abdullah Bawazir. I'm an ex-lecturer in IEI. I also worked as a head of legal of one of the biggest insurance companies in Saudi Arabia. I would like to start with saying thank you so much for your presentation. I think it's very informative. MashaAllah, you're very full of information, and I liked to learn about France law and what's over there. Also, I would like to highly appreciate that you're trying, your attempt that you're trying to kind of establish the Islamic insurance in France. This is something that is remarkably wonderful. I highly encourage you. Now, to the questions or to the points. First of all, if you don't mind, I want to allow me to make a suggestion over the presentation. I think it would be much easier for you and for everybody else to map out what you're trying to present. Having a lot of slides with a lot of text get everybody missed, and also we don't see the from a high level perspective what are we talking about. So just a small suggestion. I think when I tried to focus, I understood almost, I don't know, 70–80% of what you presented. But if you had like one slide of mapping out of the presentation, it would have been much easier for everybody, and also easier for you to brainwash others or convince us of your suggestion, which is, again, highly admirable. I have several points, very quick. I think you repeated Islamic law many times. I suspect that there is something called Islamic law. Of course, I'm a Muslim and everybody here is a Muslim. But when we say Islamic law, you have to refer to a certain document, or otherwise, please rephrase this from Islamic law to probably Islamic jurisprudence, so to make it even, from an academic perspective, more correct. Also, the Islamic insurance as well, it applies on both Islamic law and Islamic insurance. When we say Islamic insurance, what do you mean by Islamic insurance? Is there something called Islamic insurance? I don't believe that there is a document yet in this life that actually defines what is Islamic insurance. Only theses and proposals from academic people, but not yet a consensus over the Islamic insurance. So from an academic perspective, I think it's much safer to be more precise about using the terminology. Cooperative insurance, in your presentation, you kind of described the Islam, again, quote unquote Islamic insurance, that it is cooperative insurance. And from my experience in insurance, I can tell you that cooperative insurance does not mean necessarily it's Islamic insurance at all. And Islamic insurance does not mean necessarily cooperative insurance. In fact, I argue, and I don't want to, of course, open this subject right now, but just to highlight, I argue that the conventional insurance is absolutely Islamic. That's my opinion, but we're not going to argue this right now. But my point is, from an academic perspective, when we say cooperative insurance is Islamic insurance, I don't think this is accurate. On the form that you suggested, the mutual Islamic, and I know you didn't name it that way, but I'm trying to kind of, I think it was the second or the third form that you suggested, which again, please be mindful that I'm very thankful to your effort, and I like it and I admire it. Nevertheless, the quote-unquote mutual Islamic insurance, I think, although the idea looks brilliant and nice, again from a theory perspective, but if you really think about it a little bit from a practical perspective, I think it's impossible. It's not going to happen. People are derived to work on profit basis. If we're talking about only mutual all the time, with such scenario, also when you talked about the surplus, that they cannot take it back, I don't think that's going to work. Although, again, from a theoretical perspective, it's amazing. From a practical perspective, we're all greedy. We all want money. So either we people, academic people, come up with something that people would actually chew and eat. Otherwise, we're just wasting everybody's time. One question actually, because I had two questions. One of them you already answered in your presentation. I wanted to ask about the law in France, because you highlighted that there are some restrictions on the mutual entities in France. What is the likelihood and how flexible is the law in France to change? If you can just very briefly answer this question. In the US, as a lawyer, I can easily debate this by the court within 2 or 3 years, maximum 5 years, I can change the law. In Saudi Arabia, it's a monarchy, I can go up to the king and change the law. What about France? If we want to come up with something to the state and argue that we need to change the law in the benefit of the public, can you briefly just answer that? Would it be possible, and how flexible is that? The time frame? If you can answer it, if you can't, that's absolutely okay. Thank you so much.
C'est un connaisseur. C'est un connaisseur.
Thank you, Dr. Hajar. From your presentation, what I understood is you said that Saudi Arabia doesn't have cooperative insurance. That is correct. I think that information may be wrong. Is that what you presented, Dr. Hajar?
I didn't understand the question. Please repeat it.
From your presentation, I understood that you said that Saudi Arabia, the Arab world, doesn't have the cooperative insurance. Is that my understanding is correct or wrong?
Yes.
Yes. The cooperative insurance form that was studied and authorized by Muslim scholars in the 60s and the 70s. At this point, there was no cooperative insurance entities in the legal framework of the Arab and Muslim countries in general.
You mean the Islamic or generally?
The practice now, the existing company,
Before,
there is no...
There are cooperative insurance.
No, it's just a name. But when you apply the laws, it doesn't.
If I may just add an element of clarification. We know that under Saudi law, insurance is performed by so-called cooperative companies. But in fact, what is called cooperative insurance companies under Saudi law is exactly the contrary of what we call cooperative here.
Yes.
That is to say, Article 3 of the Saudi law.
Okay, now it's clear to me, that's clear.
It's okay?
Yeah.
so I don't insist.
Well, one of the,
Any other?
Yeah, the one point which I could not understand while while going for dissolution, why should the profit should be given to some other company or some other association and not the members? I don't understand the logic. Unless the mutual, the insurance company is taking over the loss-making company or taking over another company, then it makes sense. But without that, if they have to transfer all those profits to them, I don't see any logic. And thirdly, what you're proposing, to me, it looks very hard, especially when recently I have read news that halal markets were closed because they were not selling pork and alcohol. If that news is true, then I think when they cannot tolerate that, I don't think they can accept this. Thank you.
It is a contractual problem. It is a different kind of problem.
Which will explain society.
Well. Any other question?
Any other
Yes,
questions?
I have one question and one comment. My question is, what is the incentive behind establishing mutual or corporate insurance company? My comment is about the difference between the mutual and corporate insurance and the Islamic insurance company. The basic difference between them is regarding the trading risk. If the risk is shift for the money, it's mean trading with some price on that, it considered on our understanding for Islam, we consider the gambling. But if some group distributes the cost of that risk among them, we consider it that is takaful. But all the companies, as you said, which is established in the Gulf or some other places, and they call themselves as a mutual company or corporate company, they are established to make money and to shift risk with a premium. So it violates the basic of Islamic code on that. So if you want to establish Islamic insurance, it must be based on that some group distribute the cost of some evidence, some accident among them, and they contribute only to lift that hardship or lift the cost of that accident. If you try to do other way, it violates the basic. So you cannot consider the Islamic insurance, which is now, and this is what most fuqaha, when they study it, they said that it violates the basic. So this is my comment. So if you want to establish and see, and of course we distinguish between contributing on a cause of lifting some disaster among group, and we ourselves benefit from a cost of that. When we see about the mutual and the corporate insurance, it's reduce the cost of insurance. This is the incentive behind establish mutual company, because they cut the profit of the public company when they practice the insurance company, because they have to have some profit out of that activity. Now in a corporate or on a mutual, they cut that kind of profit and minimize the cost of the insurance. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're done here, Dr. Pir. You may move to Spain.
Yes, at least.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, let me say that I welcome the perspective from which you tackle this issue.
because I think we need to remind ourselves that it is the Islamic Financial Services Board in its governance paper that makes it very clear that the takaful operator structure as it exists is not necessarily any more Sharia compliant than a mutual structure. And that a mutual structure may not be possible, not because it is not Sharia compliant, but because of regulatory requirements. But that is a statement that the Islamic Financial Services Board makes without necessarily going any further and actually test that statement. And I think that statement is here to be tested, and it is important that it is tested. Also, let's remind ourselves that the other takaful models are not free of questioning. There are a number of people who have questioned, and precisely whether the Mudaraba or even the Wakala models per se are Sharia compliant. And therefore, the point here for me is the fact that a mutual structure is not less Sharia compliant per se than the structures that are normally used. And indeed, some people go further and say that the only really Sharia compliant structure is the WACF-based takaful model. And on that basis, I would just like to ask a couple of brief questions. You say that in French law, the surplus cannot be kept in reserve, the reserve account. It has to be donated, please correct me if I am wrong, to for a charitable purpose. I have to say that in Spain, a mutual company actually is able to retain any surplus, and what it does is to ensure that future premiums paid by the mutual participants are lower, and that means therefore that it's a benefit for the insured. And but also, let's remind ourselves that in a WACF-based takaful model, any surplus is retained in the WACF fund. In that sense, retaining the surplus, retaining the surplus is not at all violating any Sharia compliance regulation. And the other question I wanted to ask is, you mentioned the assets of the takaful operator. You mentioned that the takaful funds belong to the takaful operator. And personally, I would question that. And it would certainly not be the case in a WACF-based takaful model where the WACF would be the owner of any assets, of any takaful assets, and certainly not the operator. Those are my two questions. Thank you.
Wow. D'autres questions?
Gonzalo, do you have a question?
Okay, it's okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions and for the remarks. I will start with the first question. Taxes for the mutual insurance companies and the mutuals. Yes, there are taxes for the both entities, but those taxes are very different from the taxes imposed for the joint stock companies, joint stock insurance companies. It's very moderated. It's very particular. because the objective is here of the entity is a civil, it's a no commercial purpose, you see. So it's very particular and moderate, okay? About zakat, what's about zakat? This question is posed in case, especially of life insurance, when we must invest for the clients. In these cases, we find some of these cases the Islamic. We have 4 products. The Islamic manager of the Islamic insurance inform the clients that they must give zakat of some portion. I think that this choice was taken by the managers at the moment of the constitution of the operations, to avoid that the manager gives the money to a charity, to avoid to be, for example, enter in the problem of financing terrorism or anything like that, or giving some entity that may later pose questions for the manager. You see, so they prefer if the clients themselves give their zakat. For the social responsibility of the mutual, the mutual or the mutual insurance company, they are responsible with the clients to give them the indemnification. In case of insufficient funds, they can use the surplus. I think there's some confusion about the surplus. In fact, the surplus, when it's realized in a year, it's put in a reserve account to be used in the later years. In fact, when I mentioned that the surplus is given for charity or for another mutual entity, this is only in the case of the dissolution of the entity, when we want to finish liquidate the entity. Okay, it's only in this case. And I mentioned in this case, if we want to use these entities for Islamic insurance purposes, we must mention in the status that this surplus, in case of liquidity, must be given to charity. And in this case, we must name, or it's better to name the entity that will benefit from the surplus. For the use of some terms, Islamic law, Islamic insurance. In fact, Islamic law is the legal. It's the term used by Western legal or lawyers or legal consults to translate what's called in Arabic al-fiqh. Okay, it's so it's what's named in this universities in France and in England. We can see a legal Islamic law, Islamic contracts, law of Islamic contracts. All these notions means fiqh, in fact. Islamic insurance, yes, I say you have right. There's nobody can say what exactly is Islamic insurance. We have some principles, and we have especially the decisions of the collective decisions, who are the framework, the general framework of the takaful activity or Islamic insurance activity. We have a theoretical points, okay? And second question, cooperative insurance and Islamic insurance. I never said that Islamic insurance is cooperative insurance, or the opposite. I never said that cooperative insurance is Islamic insurance. In fact, I said that the cooperative insurance, as our partner in Spain said, the cooperative or mutual insurance can be used as Islamic insurance. In fact, here I put the slide on the decisions of the, especially the most important is the decision number 2 of the organization of the Islamic Corporation Academy of Islamic Law. This decision, when it talks about the تأمين تعاوني, conventional تأمين تعاوني, what is it saying? It's saying that this is authorized for the use of Islamic finance, and it asks the practitioners to use it as a basis for an Islamic practice of insurance. So this decision is very important. Okay, so it's not me who said that we can use mutual and cooperative insurance forms known in Europe for the use of for Islamic use. It's Azhar, it's the academies of Islamic law who said that. You see, it's not me. I'm not the first. I'm actually applying what they said about the cooperative insurance known in Europe. Because if we even enter in time to 961, the famous debate between Sheikh Mustafa Zarqa and Sheikh Muhammad Abu Juhra in Damas in the second International Conference of Islamic Law. We have a very famous debate about the Sharia compliance of the insurance. Sheikh Mustafa Zarqa, when he mentioned the cooperative insurance, he mentioned the French cooperative insurance. In fact, when we read his paper, we mentioned that we can understand the discussion at the moment between the Sharia scholars and the civil law scholars was about the French legal framework of the mutual insurance, and he mentioned some articles published in Egypt on the French, or its description of the French legal framework of the mutuals. Okay, so this is a very important point. Okay, we can find a very big number of studies in this point in this time who mentioned the French legal framework as a basis of insurance, and this form who was authorized by those conferences and academies of Islamic law. Of course, it's not possible to found an mutual insurance to use it for Islamic insurance. I'm totally agree with you in the practice. I said we don't have the money, sufficient money. We don't have the persons, the amount of persons who can establish this project directly. This is why we have some ideas to manage, to create some association and manage some relations to ensure the functioning of the Islamic insurance. About the question about how can we change the law. In France, it's very complicated. In France, if you want some derogation, we came with a portfolio, very big portfolio. We go to the financial service and we talk to them. I want to invest 500 million, 300 million, 100 million in France. I want some taxation, particular taxation, and we can have some particularities in terms of taxes. We can have some particularities on terms of regulations given by the tax administrations. But to change a law in terms of law adopted by the council, it's very complicated. In fact, I don't want to enter here, but we have a try in 2007 about the law of the fiducie. When the law was in
trust, basically.
Yes, it's a French form of the trust, and they tried to use it to accept the basis of the mudaraba. So can they use the fiducie, the French form of trust, to found sukuk operations, but the proposal was announced and was disrupted by the by a constitutional decision from the constitutional court, Conseil constitutionnel.
Yes. Okay. But moreover, I must add that you can change a law, and if you stay within the framework of the European law, it's awfully difficult, but you can do it. But if the law you try to change will contradict the European law, then you must change the European law, which is even more complicated.
Yes. I think that I have a response about the point why we must give the profit for another entities. En fait, we don't give the profit for another entities. We use it for the mutual company only in the case of the liquidation of the entity, of the mutual entity. In this case, what we can do with this profit? If we want to use this entity for Islamic insurance or for insurance having an respect of Islamic principles, we must say that we give it for charity. What is the cause behind the cooperative and mutual insurance? This is, I think, a very important remark. I think our partner has already given the answer. In fact, the cause behind this work is to have a very economic solution for insurance. So the policies are less cheaper. There is nobody who is profiting from the insurance operation to have a profit. Okay, so all the surpluses are used by the company to lower the insurance policies. Okay, I think that those are. I hope that I've answered for all the questions.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for your questions. If you have any other questions.
We have one more question.
I think if we go with French laws on mutual company, we can establish real Islamic insurance company, because when we saying that the premium is a contribution, according to Islam, you connect back and take part of your tabarra or contribution. So in that case, if there is some excess or fire في التأمين, they will go to charity, and this satisfies the condition of real tabarra, real contribution, and we do not need to go back to hibat al-thawab and go around how we justify to redistribute the excess to the policy holder. So I think if this insurance company are established on French laws where if there is any profit, it will not go back to the policy holder, then it can be considered real contribution, real tabarru', and then we can satisfy the condition of takaful, that we pool resource to distribute the cost of any risk, not benefit or not trading. It means shift with premium. It is not mu'awada. but it is contribution. Thank you.
Yes, according to your comment, I would like to be sure that the point in the French law consider the mutual insurance is a non-profit company or profit company. So that is depends on.
They cannot benefit from the profit.
The sound was interrupted. Could you please repeat the question?
My question is the French law consider the mutual companies for the mutual insurance is the non-profit companies or profit companies? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All the mutual entities, all the forms of the mutual insurance are considered as non-profit organizations. Okay, they are all of them, even the company of mutual insurance company that's mentioned in the code of insurance. Even this entity is considered as non-profit entity or organization. About the first point, it's I think that this point is the most important for the admission of Islamic insurance in this by the use of these entities. In fact, the relation between the policyholder or between the member and all the members is in fact it can be used as muawada or as as tabarru'. Okay, and this is the base of the use of the constitution of Islamic insurance policies of Islamic insurance products in France. We have only 4. But if we want to use it with mutual, we must say this type of donation as tabarru' in the policy, and the members will know that. In fact, I must say a point that the mutuality is a culture. Okay, all the members understand that their presence in this entity is for the cooperation. Okay, this is a culture that all the members have and believe in it. Okay, they don't enter here for to have a money to profit. Okay, they are entering to have some solidarity. Okay, so when we mention the basis of the relation as a tabarru', it's 100% compatible with the French law and 100% compatible with Islamic law. And for the donation and the use of all the excess for to lower the contribution, we can say that the company can give for charity each year or each 5 years. We can do whatever we want. This is no problem. In fact, the only prohibition in the French law is the prohibition of the donation for the members. Okay? The distribution of the surplus for the members. This is the only prohibition mentioned in the French law. Okay? But I must say something. In the tontine form of mutual insurance, it's I think it's very marginal in the practice. I think we have 4 or 5 tontines in all the France. I think only two actually, and very marginal in the law. But these entities are a group of persons, and only those entities can retake the surplus. Okay, it's a faculty in the law. Okay? It's not an obligation. We can mention in the statute of this tontine that the surplus is done for charity. We can use this multiple vehicles, and we can manage it. We have a large maneuver in the practice, in fact.